Currently, it is 32 degrees here on the campus of St. Louis Community College at Florissant Valley. I'm Jell with your noon news update. A Rock Hill man is facing charges over allegations he threatened to attack city employees in Webster Groves. Court documents say Thomas Hobbs sent written statements to a local media organization about another Cookie Thornton situation. That refers to Charles Cookie Thornton, who shot and killed 6 people in the Kirkwood Council chambers in 2008. The threat almost forced the closure of Webster Groves City Hall last week. The launch of a website for personal seat license holders of the Rams seeking compensation as part of a class action lawsuit is being pushed back. The Post-Dispatch reports the site will go live February 16th, allowing Rams PSL holders to file claims for a $24 million settlement. The PSL holders were left high and dry after the Rams relocated to Los Angeles in 2016. And the site is set for when Oktoberfest comes to St. Louis this fall. Organizers announced that Soldiers Memorial Downtown will host the inaugural Great American Oktoberfest, October 4th through the 6th. The event will feature music, German food, and beer. In campus news, it is African American History Month. Let's see. Today we have the African American Heritage Kickoff Celebration with keynote speaker Wesley Bell, St. Louis County prosecutor, with an African dance troupe musical performance and free soul food. That's going on until 1 p.m. in the Student Center Multipurpose Room. Not sure if you can jump in the middle of that because it started at 11 a.m., but maybe you can. Anyway, tomorrow, February the 6th, we have from noon to 2 p.m., we have the Poetry Club Winter Open Mic at the Student Center Multipurpose Room. Tuesday, February 12th in the Child Development Center from 10 to 10:45 a.m. Lively animation and high-energy stories with Bobby Norfolk, an Emmy Award-winning storyteller, takes you on a journey to Africa through folktales and music. Thursday, February 14th from 11 a.m. to noon, in the Multipurpose Room, there's the African American Higher Education Experience, which will chronologically track the journey of African American higher education experience. Attendees will learn about the historical struggles, sacrifices, and contributions made by African Americans towards educational attainment. And then Monday the 25th, there's a lunch and learn, and Wednesday the 27th, there is the Black Queer History panel. So, all sorts of African American stuff going on for African American History Month. That is certainly something to enjoy and discuss. Moving on, though, it is time for the weather. Today, it is cloudy with a high of 39, low of 36, even though it is 32 right now, so, you're already wrong. Tomorrow, it will be rainy with a high of 52, low of 47. Thursday, rainy and windy with a high of 51, low of 13. Wow! That is a gap! That is going from it's almost warm to it is very cold. Thursday, definitely look out for freezing rain then, as I would assume that rain would eventually freeze. Be careful on the roads, folks. Friday, sunny with a high of 25, low of 13. And Saturday, mostly sunny with a high of 35, low of 27. So that takes care of our news and our weather. Currently, it is 32 degrees here at KCFV. I'm Jell, and this has been your noon news update. But please stay tuned, because after a short break, we will be back once again with GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday. Well, looks like it will be airing every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. We're still figuring out the time, because I've got new classes going on. But for right now, until further notice, noon to 3 p.m., here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave. We'd like to kick the show off with the new game releases for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters before moving on to all sorts of video game news. This is our first show of 2019, so we have a lot to catch up on, most of which I don't even remember, so please stay tuned as I desperately try to remember everything that happened in the past month. Until then, though, here is What Are We Fighting For by Building Rome, here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. That That was What Are We Fighting For by Burning Rome here on 89.5 FM KCFV, The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which looks like it will be airing every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., still feeling out the time, but until further notice, we're going with noon to 3 p.m. Basically, I am taking a bunch of classes, learning how to be a lab assistant, gonna be great, but yeah, that does put me in an awkward position, especially because, hey, KCFV, this semester, they are popping with new shows. I looked at the show list, and there's barely any openings for me. Obviously, the actually active students get top priority, so it's like, I could do it now, early Friday, or ludicrously late, which, let's not do ludicrously late. Early Friday would be keeping with my schedule, but let's not. Anyway, we like to kick the show off with the new game releases for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. So, without further ado, let's kick things off with that PlayStation 4. Today, PlayStation 4 has Apex Legends, Rage Room, Access Denied, Ages of Mages, The Last Keeper, Away, Journey to the Unexpected, City Skylines PlayStation 4 Edition 2019 Premium Edition, that's twice the editions, Crisis VRigade, Evoland Legendary Edition, Melbit's World, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 2 Special Edition, Pro Fishing Simulator, Riot Civil Unrest, Shanky the Vegan's Nightmare, Scorcery, Spike Volleyball, The Mage's Tale, Elk Simulator, Glass Masquerade, Pipe Push Paradise, Fear of Bugs, The Fear Experience, God Eater 3, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 2, Penguin Wars, Launch Edition, finally, supposedly, if you've been listening to this show in the past, you know about me, and that game, and our adventures. And that wraps... Oh, and Spelunky is coming to PlayStation 4. As an interesting side note, a number of these are indeed PlayStation VR games. Rage Room, Crisis, VRigade, The Mage's Tale, and Fear of Bugs, The Fear Experience, all PlayStation VR. So that's 4 PS VR games. Moving on. Xbox One, what you got for us? Xbox One has Apex Legends, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 2, Special Edition, Pro Fishing Simulator, Spike Volleyball, 39 Days to Mars, Access Denied, Astroneer, Riot Civil Unrest, Salt and Sanctuary, Evoland Legendary Edition, Pumped BMX Pro, Away, Journey to the Unexpected, Glass Masquerade, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 2, again, Pipe Push Parade, and Please Don't Touch Anything. Nintendo Switch, what you got for us? Switch has Magic Nations, Avenger Bird, Riot Civil Unrest, The Book of Unwritten Tales 2, The Path of Modus, V-Rally 4, Away, Journey to the Unexpected, Blaze Blue, Central Fiction Special Edition, Captain Star 1, Defense Grid 2, Esteban, Evoland Legendary Edition, Magic Scroll Tactics, Mercury Race, Observer, Percy's Predicament Deluxe, Pocket Academy, Pumped BMX Pro, Reverie, Sweet as Edition, Sky Gamblers Afterburner, Solstice Chronicles MIA, The Stillness of the Wind, 99 Moves, Access Denied, City of Brass, Doom and Destiny, Food Truck Tycoon, Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 2, Odalis, The Dark Call, Oniken, Unstoppable Edition, Stunt Kite Party, and Super Meat Boy. 3DS has... Oh, hey, Star Fox 64 3D made Nintendo Selects, along with Super Mario Maker for 3DS, and Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D, all Nintendo Selects this week. And today, apparently, Etrian Odyssey Nexus comes out, and Yokai Watch 3. I don't believe it. There are 3DS releases. And moving on, the Vita has Access Denied and Spelunky. Game releases for this week. Next week, what you got for us? Well, let's see. Next week, we have Contrarium, followed by Descent? Really? So Descent is coming to PS4. And by Descent, I mean Descent as in the old PC game? You know, the one where you're a ship and you spin around 360 degrees and yeah, that one. It's coming to PS4 and Xbox One. Is it coming to Switch? I'm pretty sure the Switch can handle it. Anyway, Descent is coming next week, along with Hacky Zack, Hyper Jam, Jump Force Ultimate Edition, The King's Bird, The Legend of Heroes, Trials of Cold Steel Decisive Edition, The Liar Princess and the Blind Prince, Code Realize, Wintertide Miracles, Degrees of Separation, 8-Bit Armies Limited Edition, DreamWorks Dragon's Dawn of the New Riders, Far Cry New Dawn, Jump Force Regular Edition, Metro Exodus, and Rim 9000. Wait a second. I'm going to have to check something on Metro Exodus. It's like, isn't that one game? But Rim 9000, Death and... that's it for this week, for next week. Moving on, Xbox One, what you got for us next week? Xbox One has Canarium, Descent, Hyper Jam, Jump Force Ultimate Edition, The King's Bird, Degrees of Separation, 8-Bit Armies, Crackdown 3. Hey! Crackdown 3 is finally coming out! That's next week for Xbox One. DreamWorks Dragon's Dawn of New Riders, Far Cry New Dawn, Hacky Zack, Jump Force, Metro Exodus. Moving on, Nintendo Switch next week has Minesweeper Genius, The King's Bird, The Liar Princess and the Beggar Prince, Iron Cryptical, Cinders, Degrees of Separation, Ghoul Boy Love, Nekopara Volume 2, Ali Switch Stance, Space War Arena, Strikey Sisters, Tokyo School Life, DreamWorks Dragon's Dawn of New Riders, Space Lift Danger Panic, and that's it for the Switch. 3DS has Love Hero coming out next week, and the Vita has Code Realize Wintertide Miracles next week. So, that's actually a pretty decent list of games. Coming out on all these consoles. Let's see. So moving on, though, let's talk about anime in theaters, because yes, indeed, there are some new animes all hitting theaters. Very exciting. Let's see. Next one to take note of is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which is February 7th subbed and February 10th dubbed. Yes, that is the name of the anime, and I highly, highly, highly recommend showing your friends the trailer, because it appears to be some kind of school life love anime, and it was amazing seeing the trailer for that, because it looks so typical romance anime, and then the title shows up at the very end, and it's I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. For anyone who cares, Alita Battle Angel opens February 14th. I know that is, That was So Fresh by Prolific here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, video game news and information show. So, this is our first show of 2019. Of course, the studio and the campus, shut down back in December, so that way we could all, go home and have a Christmas and a New Year's and all sorts of happy holidays. Well, now we're back, baby. And I am still figuring out the show time. This may work out, keeping the old time. I'm not sure. I'll keep you posted, of course, on the YouTube channels that I desperately need to update. But yeah, because right now I am working towards getting a certificate to be a life science lab assistant, which is actually turning out to be a pretty darn great program. Not allowed to plug for other things, but I will definitely plug for the school and say that they're doing a pretty good job. Wound up not being that bad of a drive to get to the Bridge Park campus, which is actually a, real science lab. They rent out lab space to various biotech companies, and St. Louis Community College just has the a few rooms on the bottom floor of the building to handle their high-level biotech classes. And I'm thus far it's going very well. Teachers are very laid back and aren't wasting my time. I get in there, I do a little quiz, and then I start doing labs. And as soon as I finish the lab, I get to leave. But that does mean that there is this annoying gap of time between when I get out of my lab and when this show actually starts. That's a little on the variable side. Anyway, that's what's going on with me. But enough about me. You want to hear about video games. Because, whoo, buddy, there's some stuff, especially in the realm of fighting games. Cripes. Dead or Alive 6 got pushed back like a week or two to March 1st. Obviously, I've been very skeptical about that game. They actually had an open beta to try. And I'm going to say, I'm even more iffy on Dead or Alive 6 now. Like, it plays fine. It plays like Dead or Alive, but the netcode isn't actually improved, like, at all from Dead or Alive 5. The gameplay is pretty much identical, except for the ever-questionable Fatal Rush mechanic, which is their new thing, where they claim you can just mash this button to win, which is not a thing you want to advertise for your fighting game. The Fatal Rush is actually surprisingly hard to land. I will give them credit there, because it hits very high, so most characters will duck under it. For those of you unfamiliar, Fatal Rush, new mechanic for Dead or Alive 6. Basically, you have a special button, and you can press that repeatedly to do a big flashy combo that, if it lands, and you have enough meter, will automatically end in a flashy super move fatal blow thing. The trick with Fatal Rush is that if the first hit lands, you cannot counter the rest of it. You are locked into that combo. You can't get out of it, which is different for DOA. DOA is all about being able to counter out of a combo. And that's one of the things I really like about it. So I was very concerned about the Fatal Rush, especially because it is just this one semi-automatic combo string. However, it's surprisingly hard to land because it hits super high. Having said that, there have been a lot of weird bugs. When I played, like, none of the guys could wear glasses. I posted a picture on Twitter of new fighter Diego with the glasses just clipping through his face. They seem to have patched that later. There were also issues of people being able to clip through the arena and walk outside of it. And I kept seeing weird issues with the frame rate, because for some bizarre reason, I don't know why companies are doing this. Kingdom Hearts 3 does this as well. Cutscenes run at a different frame rate than the game. And, you know, the game generally runs at 60 FPS, cutscenes run at 24 FPS, which is a very weird frame rate for video games. And in Dead or Alive 6, those cutscenes are the super moves. So you're attacking at 60 FPS, and all of a sudden you land a super move. Let's cut to 24 FPS, and then cut back to 60 FPS. And that seems to be causing a few hiccups. I don't think the frame rate is as stable as it needs to be, and not having a solid 60 FPS for your fighting game can be its death knell. So I'm very, very iffy on it. The lack of tag mode is absolutely confirmed. And Yohei Shimbori, the guy in charge of the game, continues to send mixed messages about what they're trying to do with the game. The customize, and right now, like, anyone, I'm just going to put it out here right now, anyone actually praising Dead or Alive 6 is probably just messing with you. They're just putting needless hype behind it, because people are so excited about the new customization features and all the costumes that come with the game. Oh, it's so surprising, except Dead or Alive 6 comes with less costumes packaged with it than Dead or Alive 5. They just have a bunch of palette swaps. There's like 7 palette swaps for every costume, and that's all fine and dandy. I like that, but that's not new costumes. In terms of new costumes, Dead or Alive 5 had more. And the customization feature is the exact same customization features we had in Dead or Alive 5. All you're doing is saving presets rather than selecting all those on the character select screen. It's not real customization. And there's no tag mode, and quest mode looks like garbage. I hate to admit that I'm kind of interested in the game based purely on the fact that I like Dead or Alive and I want to know what happens next in the story, but this is frustrating. And of course, all the loot costumes are special edition only. I think they're digital special edition only, which is an extra turnoff. And I don't even know what's going on with Dead or Alive 6 anymore. I think the game is very iffy, and I think sensible, like, if you actually care about Dead or Alive as a fighting game, stick with 5. 5 is really, really, really good. Dead or Alive 5 is a fantastic game. Dead or Alive 6 will have a free-to-play version. They've said that this is happening. They don't know they cannot disclose all the details about it. And, yeah, I don't know. Dead or Alive 6 looks like a disappointment, but less of one than Soul Calibur 6. Speaking of Soul Calibur 6, let's move on to that. Season 1 has had its DLC leaked. Amy and Cassandra are the rest of Season 1. Season 2, though, appears to have been found in data mining, but they wisened up and started using code names rather than just the outright character names in the files. But it looks like Rock, Lizardman, Setsuka, Huang, and a few others seem plausible, so there is a Season 2 of DLC planned. And of course, we're supposed to get the 250 costume part, 15 Creative Soul costume part packs, which we're still waiting on. And this is the annoying thing with Soul Calibur 6. Pretty much all of the DLC is just recycled crap from Soul Calibur 5 that they cut out of the game so they could put it back in to scam all of us, and yet we're still waiting on it. Yes, they updated it so now we can play as 2B from Nier Automata. That's wonderful, great, fantastic. So you finally released your first DLC character, and then what? They're leaving us hanging, and Namco is actively trying to kill Soul Calibur 6. Undeniable at this point. Namco is trying to murder Soul Calibur 6. They want Soul Calibur gone. They want everyone to forget about it. They want everyone to just go, oh, Soul Calibur was a crap game. Let's all move on to Tekken. Well, newsflash, I don't like Tekken. And there's literally nothing you could do to make me like Tekken. Because it's just a personal preference. I don't like the way Tekken controls and feels. The only way to make me like Tekken is to turn it into Bloody Roar, which you don't want to do because that would piss off the Tekken fans. So maybe, just maybe, don't screw over Soul Calibur. But that's not happening. Soul Calibur's getting screwed over. Namco is desperately trying to murder the game so that way they don't have to put any more money into Soul Calibur. And the Soul Calibur fans are eating it up regardless because screw you, Namco. It is a mess. Whew, moving on, Street Fighter V has its new season going on, kind of. They released a new character. I don't even remember his name. Kage, that's right, Kage. And it's just evil Ryu, except he's actually Dan. Like, they are copy-pasting moves from Dan from the Street Fighter 4 Dan into evil Ryu. So Dan is evil Ryu now. Evil Ryu is Dan. What? But people are confused because, okay, so this is the first character of the new season. Where's the season pass? What are the other characters? What's going on? Capcom has not clarified on that. As I mentioned, Mortal Kombat 11 was announced out of nowhere and is coming out very soon. I think April? Which is surprising considering how close to release it was announced. It's definitely questionable. The game is slow, light on combos, but has a custom variation option. Speaking personally, I'm not a fan of the new character designs. I think they're too realistic for Mortal Kombat. I think they're kind of bland, to put it lightly. I'm very iffy on Mortal Kombat 11 and will most likely skip out on it unless they reveal something utterly mind-blowing. Which, I mean, at that point it would just have to be custom characters. You would have to just go full Mortal Kombat Armageddon to get me to care about Mortal Kombat 11 at this point. Which, that was the best one. Honestly, everyone that bashes Mortal Kombat Armageddon, you were playing it wrong. You don't play the actual characters, you make custom characters and fight them. Because that's the only way that game is enjoyable. You play the regular characters, you're disappointed. But the custom characters were great. That was a friggin' blast. Moving on, though, to the big fighting game, Dragon Ball FighterZ. They've announced Season 2. Jiren and Videl are out, and best news of all, if you select Videl with one of the shoulder buttons, you can get her pigtails. That is an important point to many fans, and yes, you have a choice of hairstyles with Videl. Thank goodness we have Videl. I was very much rooting for her. I'm glad she's in. Movie Broly and Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta are all confirmed to be coming up, and then we have 2 more mystery fighters that they have not yet announced. This is all rather surprising considering what has gone on with Dragon Ball FighterZ. Namely, a lot of tournaments got canceled. This was one of the weirdest things, and definitely one of the big screw-ups of 2018. A bunch of tournaments were planned for Dragon Ball FighterZ, and they all had to cancel due to quote-unquote unforeseen circumstances that they were not allowed to disclose, leaving everyone very confused and angry. Dragon Ball FighterZ is the big fighting game right now on the market. A lot of people love it. It kicked Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite off its high and mighty throne. Well, it didn't even get to its throne. It took the throne. It didn't even let Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite sit down. It is the new Marvel. Lots of people love it. It's pulling in very, very good numbers. Like, it was looking to be the esports fighting game, and then all of a sudden, all these tournaments start getting shut down for mystery reasons. And it was like, what? Why would you do this? The game was doing good, because if you start shutting down tournaments, you're literally just murdering the esports scene. It's been canceled from EVO Japan. There will be no Japanese competition for Dragon Ball FighterZ at EVO, if it even comes to EVO. And they've even said Dragon Ball the organizer of EVO has even said Dragon Ball FighterZ might be a one and done, which is shocking because it was the biggest game of last EVO. People I tuned in for Dragon Ball FighterZ. And now it's just not going to be there because some mysterious force is trying to shut it down. And we don't know what. Everyone's tried to look into this. The first guess was, is it Namco Bandai and Arc System Works? Definitely not. They said not us. So people started blaming Toei, who has a reputation for shutting down things. But they said, no, not us, and we don't have the power to do so. Leaving only Shueisha at this point, which has declined to comment, and we're not sure what's going on, why you would try to do this. Namco Bandai, of course, realizes that these tournaments getting shut down would be the death knell for the game and would definitely hurt the sales of the game. So they are doing their own Dragon Ball FighterZ World Tournament. They're hosting their own tournaments. They're trying to keep the game alive, but something is shutting it down. And no one is allowed to say who it is, what the nefarious force fighting against Dragon Ball FighterZ is from the shadows. It's the dumbest thing. Why would you? It literally makes no sense. There is no good reason. The only explanation that anyone can come up with is greed. They are assuming that Shueisha is seeing all these people tuning in to this fighting game and going, hey, why aren't we making money off of this? And they want extra money, which, of course, puts these tournaments in jeopardy. This is and that is complete assumption. We have no clue what it could be that's causing these tournaments to be shut down. So it's just a mystery. And a lot of people thought that maybe Season 2 would be canceled because of this. But no, Season 2 just went through. It's going on. So Dragon Ball FighterZ is still being kept alive and being a game, and people are still playing it. But they're all in limbo. There's all this weird feeling of, why should I devote time and energy and resources to getting good at this game if I am not allowed to play it in tournaments? Why should I if all the tournaments get shut down? And everyone's still trying to figure out what could possibly be causing this. It is a very, very, very strange situation. And yeah, obviously a massive screw-up on somebody's part, and we don't know who. Confound you, non-disclosure agreements. I have never been more angry at non-disclosure agreements. Seeing all the nefarious crap that companies are trying to pull behind the scenes and, oh, you can't talk about it because we got an NDA. Screw you and your non-disclosure agreements. I understand why they're there. They're to prevent secrets from getting out. They're to allow development of games and to have a big surprising release. And, if a game just doesn't work out, it can be canceled. But the way I feel like NDAs are being abused at this point. And it makes me very angry. And I'm glad that some people have been willing to break NDA because they hate Sony enough to be whistleblowers about their censorship policies, a fact we will be discussing later in this show because, oh egad, Sony's censorship policies continue to be a thorn in the side of gaming, especially me. I am very angry with Sony, to put it lightly. They are a garbage company, and I hate them. And they only become more garbage every passing day. Anyway, though, I do believe it is time for a break. So here is Dallas by Whisperwall here on 89.5 FM KCFV, The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. And stay tuned for more GameBabble Live after the break. That was Sunflower by Post Malone and Sway Lee here on 89.5 FM KCFV, The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, video game news and information show which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., it seems. So, getting back into things, here's some strange announcements. First of all, Bow to Blood, a PlayStation VR airship captaining game, is getting a non-VR version titled Bow to Blood Last Captain Standing, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. But the good news, if you already own it on PlayStation VR, then you get all the new content for free. So they're not abandoning the PlayStation VR release. They're adding a bunch of stuff to it, making a non-VR version, and then people who supported the VR version, hey, we get more stuff. So that's great. Might have to pick that game up now. I'm kind of intrigued by this. Also, moving on in a far stranger direction, so there's a new Bubsy game coming for some reason. It's being made by the Bit Trip Runner series, and it looks to be a very similar game to that. It's called Bubsy Paws on Fire. It's coming to PS4, PC, and Switch, and it's even going to feature characters from the single-episode Bubsy cartoon pilot, for anyone who cares about that. But the weirdest thing is today they have just started a Kickstarter for the DLC. Yeah, there's a Kickstarter for the DLC. The game's still coming out, no matter what you do. But if you pay extra money now, hey, here's a bunch of DLC coming for it, extra costumes and stages and characters and things. And I'm just like, why? Especially because the last Bubsy game was a huge disappointment, even though it was from an actually pretty respected developer. So there is that. Moving on. Something I forgot to mention in the fighting game roundup earlier. Piranha Plant has been released for Super Smash Bros. If you registered your copy of Super Smash Bros. Shortly after getting it, then you have a free download of Piranha Plant. You have to if you registered the game before this month, then Nintendo's supposed to send you an email with download code that you punch in, and then when Piranha Plant comes out, it downloads. If not, you can buy Piranha Plant. It's up on the store. However, fair warning, Piranha Plant has a bug where if you try to use it in All-Star mode, it might corrupt your save data. Some people are saying this only happens in digital versions of the game. Nintendo is on the case, but they cannot recreate the bug. They have no clue what's causing it. The good news is that supposedly if you have a Nintendo Switch Online service thing, then supposedly Smash is one of the games that can actually have its data backed up to the cloud. Supposedly. Fingers crossed. So you could just re-download it from the cloud and get your save data back. Hopefully. Moving on, speaking of online shenanigans and PlayStation VR and things that disappoint me, Starblood Arena will be shut down in January. The game will be rendered unplayable, and all existing discs will become coasters in July. This is a very interesting situation. Starblood Arena was an early PlayStation VR game, and one of the ones that really got a lot of hype. It was like a multiplayer version of Descent with a focus on different characters that have different ships and different abilities. So like a combination of Descent and Overwatch. It was really cool. It had like licensed like punk and rock music, and it was actually really fun to play. I liked a lot about it and would consider it one of the PlayStation VR's better games. However, immediately at launch, I had beef with it because it did get an almost full-price physical release. I bought it, I bring it home, I install the game, only to find out that the game isn't actually on the disc. Like a beta version of the game with vastly inferior presentation and graphics that only lets you play the tutorial is on the disc. You have to download a couple of gigs to get the actual full release of the game, which, happens automatically when you pop in the disc. So the disc is pointless. And once Sony takes that game off of their servers, it will cease to exist. But that's not the problem here. The bigger problem, because, you can buy it digitally as well. The even bigger problem than this, though, is that even though the game does have a single-player versus bots mode, for no good reason, you need an internet connection to play single-player. And there were many times where there were server issues for Starblood Arena, making the game utterly unplayable. This was one of the big problems that launched, and one of the main criticisms. Nearly everyone that played Starblood Arena gave it crap for the fact that they didn't believe it would be able to last, because it had a terrible launch, the servers were a mess, and people were having trouble matchmaking. This wound up being a huge wake-up call to a lot of VR gamers. A common, recurring flaw, honestly, in gaming as a whole right now, is this over-obsession with online multiplayer games that they're charging full price for, but as soon as the online goes offline, they become completely worthless. The game may as well be deleted from existence. And this is even worse in VR, because there are a ton of pretty much online-only VR games being sold. And it's like, yeah, but not a lot of people have VR headsets. Your player base is incredibly limited. Why would you build a game entirely around playing it online when there is a good chance that there will be no one playing it online? And that was one of the problems that Starblood Arena very, very, very much had. Now, it has a dedicated fan community that holds, like, fights every Wednesday night or Sunday night or whatever. They get together, they play their Starblood Arena, and dang it, they're going to be playing it until the very end. They're going to see it off right. But the problem is, once July comes around, which is like a year and a half after the game came out, the servers shut down. There's no single player. The single player requires those servers. So what that means is that I paid a good chunk of change for a game that a year and a half after release will be deleted from existence. There will be absolutely, positively no way at all to play this game. It will be as though it never existed. I hate it when this happens. I'm a video game collector. I archive a lot of things. There are a number of games that I dragged my feet on reviewing and have now been delisted, and I've decided that if I ever get off my lazy butt and start making GameBabble episodes again, I am going to specifically label the delisted games as they come out and are delisted. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is not the only one, people. There are a lot of games which are just being deleted from existence, some of which are very, very, very good, such as the greatest music game Konami has ever made. And now my phone is ringing for some reason. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. So, yeah. Just... it's sad seeing all these games getting delisted and removed from existence, especially Starblood Arena, because it is a PlayStation VR game that, if it weren't for this problem, I would recommend. I would consider one of the better PlayStation VR games. But the fact that they focused entirely on online multiplayer and handled the release so poorly by requiring an internet connection to play it at all means that now, oh look, year and a half later, Sony's shutting down the servers. Game gone. Never happened. What's a Starblood Arena? What's extra irritating is that the fine folks at White Moon Dreams, the developers of the game, have to admit that they made a deal with the devil. Sony owns the rights to the Starblood Arena IP. What this means, no PC port, no sequel, know anything. They cannot make a spin-off. They cannot flesh out the stories of these characters they've created. They do not own the characters. They do not own the IP. They don't own anything. Starblood Arena belongs to Sony. Even though we bought it, we don't own the game. Sony owns the game, and they've said, we're taking this Starblood Arena and we're throwing it in the trash. We don't care if you like the characters. We don't care if you like the gameplay. We don't care if it's one of the best games on PlayStation VR. Starblood Arena is no more. And that is the kind of thing that pisses me off in ways you cannot possibly comprehend. Well, maybe you have a slight idea, because I am very animated and furious about this right now. It's the stupidest thing. This should not happen, and yet this is the future we are marching towards. We are marching towards the future, and I wonder, I need to double check if Firewall Zero Hour can be played without an internet connection. Because goodness knows, Sony funded that. Maybe in a year and a half, Firewall Zero Hour, widely considered the best PlayStation VR game right now, could just be deleted from existence. Just poof, gone. Oh, you bought this game? What's this disc do? Nothing. It's a coaster now. There's no game on the disc anyway. Just a beta to a game you can't play, a tutorial to teach you how to play this game that doesn't exist, with inferior graphics to the actual game and inferior presentation. What the heck? This kind of stuff always gets me very animated. Whew, so that's happening. Yeah. So enjoy your Starblood Arena while it lasts, folks. It was, I'd call it a good run, but it wasn't. I don't know how these idiots release a game in that state. Why would you ever release a game in such a way that it can't be preserved at all, that it just gets deleted? Moving on. Speaking of digital debacles, hey, how about that Metro Exodus? That's why I was confused when I was reading those lists. So if you're not familiar, I'm not a big Metro fan, but I know Metro is a long-running first-person shooter, kind of survival horror-y game. I think it's made by a Russian developer, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure on this. Point is, the Metro series, though it got off to a rocky start, a lot of people really liked it, and they were very excited about the new Metro game, Metro Exodus, which was available for pre-order on Steam until a few months ago, when the Epic Game Store got pitched, and they pulled the game from Steam, canceling all the pre-orders and requiring you to download the Epic Game Store if you wanted the game on PC. What's more, Epic Games is now partially owned by Chinese company Tencent, and some people looking at the Epic Game Store launcher feel that it might border on spyware. They're very iffy on it, so they don't want to go with the Epic Game Store. Some games are moving over to the Epic Game Store from Steam because they get a bigger share of the profits. And yeah, the current plan is that it would be exclusive on PC to the Epic Game Store for 1 year. What makes this very interesting, though, is that next week it comes out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And the developers have even gone as far as to say that if the game doesn't sell well on the Epic Game Store, the next entries in the series may become console exclusive. This, of course, is cause for a lot of concern, because it's like, hey, wait a second, I don't like the Epic Game Store, I don't want to support them, and you're saying that if we don't buy your game on this untested, questionable release platform, that you're not going to support PC at all. So PC gamers are, of course, understandably pissed at this. And they have decided to take it out on the company and Metro as a whole by review bombing the entire Metro franchise and all their past games as a way of saying screw you for trying to pull this stuff. And I'm quite surprised, because I didn't expect it to get a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One release. What in the heck is even the point of being an Epic Game Store exclusive for 1 year if you could just buy it on PS4 and Xbox One? Admittedly, this is part of the reason why I like consoles. It's always back and forth. Always with the back and forth. So yeah, Metro Exodus, that's a hoot. And by the way, Fallout 76, yeah, continuing to screw up. At this point, Fallout 76 was the screw-up of 2018. And I love the fact that it decided to end the year with a non-bang. As sure enough, as 2018 rolled into 2019, a Y2K bug literally hit Fallout 76, rendering the nukes unlaunchable because they were not set up to handle the year 2019. The very next year, a few months after release. Now, they have since patched this, but since then, there have been more debacles, like people finding their way into the dev room, people using item duplication cheats, so that way they can sell items on eBay, and just all sorts of tomfoolery. They're trying to put in a PvP mode, but that's backfiring. I can't even keep up with all the Fallout 76 nonsense. There was their friggin' Nuka Dark Cola debacle, where people thought they'd be getting a fancy collectible bottle, when in reality they're getting a plastic shell with a regular bottle inside. Now they're trying to sell a overpriced Fallout 76 jacket, which looks tacky and everyone is making fun of it. Fallout 76 is the failure that keeps on failing. It is amazing. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a game screw up, a company screw up this badly. Bethesda's doomed. Bethesda is just doomed. They will be out of business. There is no coming back from this. I'm sorry to tell you this. Chances are the next Elder Scrolls will either A, be garbage, or B, be not coming at all. Because Fallout 76 has been just a cavalcade of screw-ups. How do you screw up this badly? How do you keep screwing up? It's amazing. It is actually amazing. Whew. So in other, probably online only, I'm not 100%. You know what? Let's do a quick Google search. Because, yeah, there's a game coming out. It's called Anthem. Let's see. Anthem won't have PvP, can be played single player, is always online. Is Anthem always... Anthem has single player, but it will not have offline. It is always online. So, Anthem, another game that can be deleted from existence. Isn't that wonderful? For those of you unfamiliar, Anthem is BioWare's next game under EA and looks a lot like a clone of Destiny, which is not what BioWare is generally good at making, and they have been very, very concerned about the success of this game. The people in BioWare, a year ago, were looking at Anthem and saying, we're screwed. This game is probably going to flop. It's not going to be a success. People are going to hate it. They put out a open beta that people could play. Responses have been mixed. Generally, people think the game is pretty okay, at least on PC. Apparently, it runs very poorly on consoles. It's a little all over the place in that regard. Not very well optimized. Game seems pretty but generic. And yeah, a lot of people just don't care about Anthem. They care a little bit more, but then everyone's concerned about the monetization scheme, as some of the leaked DLC prices are ludicrously high. And yeah, I don't think Anthem's going to turn out very good. I'm very anti-Anthem. Oh yeah, and then there's the fact that its actual release date is confusing. Because depending on what EA early access things and pre-orders you have in place determines when you can play the game. Some of which is absolutely baffling. Like, if you have EA Super Premium early access, you get to play the game a day earlier than everyone else. Then if you have EA Premium access, you get to play the game the next day on PC. But if you're on Xbox One and PS4, you only get to play the game the next day for 10 hours. Why is it limited to only 10 hours on console? And then, the day after that is pre-orders, and the day after that is when the game releases to the rest of the public? I don't know. Either way, it's utterly confusing. And while I have mixed opinions on good old Jim Sterling, he referenced that this is an example of a confusopoly, where we have companies trying to make the release of a game so utterly baffling that people will be afraid of missing out and spend more money than they actually want to spend to purchase the game. It is a sleight of hand scam, and AAA companies are using release dates as a means of doing this. And it's scummy, and it's awful, and AAA gaming is going down the crapper. AAA gaming is doomed. They have screwed up so much this past year. They're continuing to screw up. It's continuing to burn down. While I am very iffy on indie gaming, just AAA gaming is unsustainable. It's been unsustainable. We are heading towards an industry crash of at least some kind. Now, that does not mean that gaming is going to go away. Video games will always be there as long as there are people willing to make games for the sake of making games. And at this point, we have enough easy game creation toolkits and game jams and the like going on that video games will continue into perpetuity. I mean, cripe's sake, even I could throw something together in RPG Maker for you at the very least, which I've been meaning to do. I mean, I know RPG Maker well. I've got ideas. I just need to put it together and actually make something. But I'm notoriously lazy. If all video game production ended tomorrow, I could still make you something in RPG Maker. People could find a way. But the big budget AAA $1 billion, maybe not billion, but $1 million franchises that are super fancy and polished and open world and all that stuff, that's going to be going away very soon. That is not sustainable. We are in a very weird place with games like that. But that's where we are. Anyway, I do believe it is time for another break. So I will leave you with some music. Here is Superposition by Young the Giant. Here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. And when we get back, we will continue discussing more video games. Perhaps talk about Sony's censorship policies and the chaos they are wreaking now. And what's going on with Platinum Games. Anyway, though, here is Superposition by Young the Giant here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and please enjoy. That was So Tied Up by Cold War Kids featuring Bishop Briggs here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I am your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, airing every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. So, moving on, let's talk about how angry I am at Sony's censorship policies, because, I am an unhappy person. Yes, as I had predicted, the Senran Kagura 7 will be drastically altered from its original intent. For those of you unfamiliar, Senran Kagura is a hack-and-slash series with a focus on lewd content. It started on the 3DS because, not joking, the creator of the game heard Nintendo was making a 3D system, and they were like, what do people want to see in 3D? Boobs. And from there, it just took off. They've had a lot of fun. The series started as very low budget, but as it gained popularity, the budget got bigger, the games got better, things were really looking up, and Senran Kagura 7 was going to be the first really big budget Senran Kagura game. All the other ones had been made for Vita and ported to PS4 and PC, or made for 3DS and just stayed on 3DS, but this was going to be the first one, mainline entry, made specifically for the PlayStation 4, really take advantage of it, really put in the effort. It's already been in development for like 2 years. Things were going good. And then just recently, Sony completely lost their mind. They've cracked down on censorship more than Nintendo ever has. And, yeah, the guy in charge of the game is like, well, I'm going to have to drastically alter this game. And, yeah, people are asking, could you do a non-altered one on PC? What's going on? And his opinion is that censorship is running wild in all forms of media on all platforms. And it's of course here that someone goes, no, but there's like all these porn games on Steam, because Steam allows that now. If you go through the adult verification process, you can see adult games which can be sold on Steam. But no, Steam is very inconsistent about this, and they have removed certain Japanese games with adult content because of assorted reasons. They do not enforce their regulations evenly across the board. They have a lot of sketchy people there who are very puritanical working at Valve, where if they don't like a game, they will remove it, and there's not a lot they can do. So Steam is not a good outlet for Japanese games that want to have lewd content. The Nintendo Switch is a better choice, but how long until Nintendo goes back to being Nintendo and no longer allowing lewd mahjong games on the Switch? And that's the thing. They don't know what they're going to do. And this honestly puts the release of Uppers into question. Because if you don't remember, Uppers was a Vita game, released only in Japan, flopped horribly, but a lot of people in America were really interested in it. And it was going to get a PS4 and PC release. I haven't heard anything about it in a while. Now, it could still get that PC release. I do believe it will still meet even Steam's more stringent standards, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to release the PS4 one uncensored, and this is sort of where the censorship saga starts. Honestly, the whole thing, I think, began with Dead or Alive Extreme 3, because that was supposed to have a VR mode that was going to be patched in later, and initially, you could actually touch the girls in the VR mode. Now, keep in mind, Dead or Alive Extreme 3 had already been decided to not be released in America. It was already denied a U.S. release. It was not coming out here. It was Japan and Asia only. However, people did catch wind of this mode, and a certain gaming website decided to refer to it as a virtual sexual harassment simulator. It happened to be a slow news day, so this made the mainstream news cycle to the point where my mother actually asked me about this. And a lot of people got a lot of information wrong. They thought it was a new game and not just a DLC expansion for an existing game that was already denied a US release. So, after this, things began to get a little weird. I noticed that in all PlayStation VR games, I made a video on this, any game where you could, touch a girl in other versions, you can't in PlayStation VR. Your hand would just clip through them. The touching was removed from Dead or Alive Extreme 3. This was very interesting. It got further interesting and became clear that something was going on behind the scenes with the release of a game called Happy Manager. Happy Manager was set to be a VR dating sim, though it would have a non-VR mode. The idea was you were the manager of a hotel spa type thing, and there were 3 cute girls who all happened to live at this apartment hotel spa type thing, and you could date them, and there were various mini games and stuff. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the VR content was cut from the game, and then they said they would patch it back in a limited capacity, and they were very vague about this. I actually went out of my way to import the game and find out what capacity they meant. And what I found was you cannot play the game in VR, but you can re-watch almost every scene in VR. I'd say 75% of the game can still be viewed in VR, even though you can't play it. And I began to notice certain things, like certain outfits couldn't be viewed in VR, but could be viewed out of VR. Certain scenes couldn't be viewed in VR, but could be viewed out of VR. And looking at it, I noticed every single one of them involved touching in some limited capacity. Now, I want to emphasize limited, because one of the scenes that was cut out is a scene where a cockroach gets on one of the girls, and you have to swat it off of her by basically shooting Hadoukens at her. You don't actually have a hand and grab. No, you look at the cockroach, and then it shoots like a laser blast there. But she recoils and reacts to getting hit, so that comes close enough to touching that scene was not allowed to be viewed in VR. The most noticeable and egregious of these, though, would be Galgun 2. Now, Galgun 2 was announced for PlayStation 4, and Galgun is a goofy, lewd, light gun shooter. where basically a bunch of girls are chasing after you and trying to give you love letters, and you have to shoot them with a gun that makes them very happy in order to get them off of you. We'll just leave it like that. The second game in the series was announced, and then out of nowhere, Galgun VR gets announced for PC, and everyone's like, what the heck? Why isn't this on PlayStation VR? Why is this PC only? And then Galgun 2 comes out, and the pieces all fall into place. Galgun VR is an unfinished version of Galgun 2. It uses the same girls and the same environments with a lot of the same new gameplay features. It's just not as fleshed out as Galgun 2, which does not have a VR mode. But the entire plot of Galgun 2 revolves around VR along with its interface. The plot is that you get a magic VR headset that lets you see demons that are possessing girls, and you have to, get them off of them, and you can't remove the headset until you've busted all the demons at the school. That's the plot, and the entire interface is built around being played in VR, but it had no VR mode, and people looked at it and they were like, this is Galgun VR. This is a more fleshed out Galgun VR, and it's so clear what happened. Galgun 2 was made as a VR game. Then, partway through development, Sony started implementing their new censorship policies, and they could no longer make a Galgun game in VR, even though they already had the VR, pretty much finished and running. And they were like, well, shoot, the game's too far in development to completely cancel. Let's release the game as is in its current state as Galgun VR. So that way this VR mode we just put all this time and effort into implementing doesn't go to waste. We'll just throw that up on Steam and finish this game up. And Galgun 2 gets released on PS4 and later on Steam. People hack into Galgun 2 and they notice the bits of code for a VR mode. And the fans were hacking into VR mode already. Recently, they just released an official VR patch, which costs a couple extra bucks, and lets you play Galgun 2 in actual VR. And I'm going to tell you right now, the difference is massive. Galgun 2 outside of VR is the worst game in the entire franchise. Galgun 2 in VR is the best game in the entire franchise, because it was built for VR. And it's a light gun game. And it's nice to play a light gun game with an actual light gun, which works out really well in VR. VR is really good for light gun games. But that's the thing. This was a game built for VR, and then Sony forced them to remove the VR. Again, or at least that's what it seems to be. It's a very peculiar situation. Well, things started to ramp up recently when Senran Kagura Renewal, a remake of the original Senran Kagura, drastic remake, I still haven't tried it myself, they announced Xseed, a company which generally does not censor anything, it is very open about stuff, announced that Sony was forcing their hand and they would have to remove one of the modes in the dressing room from the US PlayStation 4 release. It is still available in the Steam release, but they had to remove it from the US PS4 release, even though this feature had been in every single Galgun game up to this point. Even though this feature is in the Japanese version, starting now, this feature can no longer be in Galgun on PlayStation 4. Or, not Galgun, Senran Kagura, I'm sorry. Even though this feature had been in all the previous Senran Kagura games, even though it's in the Japanese version, starting now, you can't have this feature in Senran Kagura on PS4. It has to be removed. Sony will not allow a release. Let's not even forget about Omega Labyrinth Z, a game that was completely 100% translated, but Sony said, this cannot be released on our console. It was released in Japan, but starting now, nope, not in America. Not in the West. Not in English. And this made people very suspicious. Things really ramped up, though, with some Japanese games. There were some Japanese visual novels that were coming out that were, of course, very lewd. These games were released on Vita, Switch, PC, and PS4. However, the PS4 releases had to be drastically censored, when even the Switch one didn't have to be as censored. And this caused some alarm. And they outright said, yeah, Sony is requiring us to do this. Now, that actually goes against the non-disclosure agreements. You're not allowed to say that. But they had an alibi. They don't speak English because guess what? Sony's an American company now. Nintendo is the last Japanese video game company. That's right. Sony moved their head offices for computer entertainment, not the whole company, but Sony Computer Entertainment, their head offices are in California now. They have a new president, and this coincides with the games suddenly getting censored, with the Vita getting canceled, which was a terrible idea because the Vita is more successful than the PS4 in Japan, so that shows just how detached he is. And the Japanese developers are pissed because if they want to release a game on PS4, they have to write their proposal in English and release and send it out during American business hours. Which, of course, leads the Japanese developers going, what the heck? Don't you have anyone who speaks Japanese over at Sony? But no, they don't. So they did not mind breaking their NDA and announcing, yeah, no, we're censoring our games. It is, in fact, so bad that the game Nekopara is actually rated E on PlayStation 4, but it is rated M on Switch, and there is an AO version on PC. But this is the current state of things. Sony is going mad with censorship. They're even censoring Japanese games, and it is hurting a lot of games that were in development because people were making these games. This is becoming very, very, very well known that the PlayStation 4 releases of any lewd game will be inferior because Sony will censor it. This is just a fact. This is the way things are now. And yes, this is hurting Senran Kagura 7. The guy in charge outright thinks that he will not be able to release his lewd games on any systems in the coming future. He is considering PC. He just doesn't think the games will do well on PC. And he just doesn't think there's a market there. And, yeah, he has pretty much said next game is going to be on Switch. Other than Peach Ball, because Peach Ball's already on Switch. That is the Senran Kagura pinball spin-off, which is unbelievably lewd. I cannot believe you can make a lewd pinball game, but oh, buddy, Peach Ball looks amazing. It actually looks really fun. I haven't seen, like, a good over-the-top fantasy pinball video game in a good long while, so I'm actually kind of excited to play it. But, yeah, that's a something of a game, let me tell you. So that's what's going on with that. But yeah, Senran Kagura 7 is absolutely getting kneecapped thanks to Sony. And yeah, so screw Sony. They're an awful company and I hate them deeply with every fiber of my being. And I just figured that might be important to say. We do not know what the case is with Xbox One because once upon a time, Xbox was where you went for lewd Japanese games, and then when the Kinect came out, Microsoft tightened their policies, amusingly with Galgun, when they forced Galgun 1 to censor itself when it was a 360 exclusive, then it moved to PS3, where things were more lenient. And yeah, I don't know if Microsoft has relaxed their policies at all, and I don't think anyone in Japan cares. But that is what's going on. That's why I'm pissed off. And do not think for a moment that Steam is censorship-free. I'm going to need to really look it up because, of course, the games that get censored on Steam are the ones that slip under the radar. The smaller ones that you don't hear about, that you don't care about. Because that's where they can actually censor things without causing a ruckus. But Steam is absolutely censoring games. They are very wishy-washy on their adult games policy. And I think there may be some nefarious actors with nice names going on behind the scenes. Let's just say I am not feeling very charitable towards any charities right now, but, yeah. That's one of the annoying things. Yeah, can I just, slight detour from gaming for a minute? You know what one of the most vile things to me is bad charities. You know, the idea of a charity is supposed to be you donate money to help people, and then you find out that these people are actually doing horrible, horrible things with your money because of reasons. There's a couple of those out there, a couple that have names and goals that sound nice on paper, but in reality are terrible. I guess the most well-known one is PETA. the people for the ethical treatment of animals, yeah, they might maybe have murdered a lot of dogs. There have been many stories about that. PETA is not a kind of, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this on the air, but no, PETA is not a charity you want to donate to. And there are others out there like that. And I feel some of them may be nefarious actors working behind the scenes to strong-arm certain companies. They've certainly claimed credit for it, but oh egad, if I actually talked about it on the air, due to the name of this particular charity, it would make me sound like a complete monster. If I said these people are horrible people who are censoring our video games. Because, yeah, they have a good name. They have a name that no one would ever want to go against. And I'm going to have to, and that's going to make me sound like I support horrible, horrible, horrible things. Sometimes the world is a strange place. Anyway, I do believe it's time to be a little less serious and kick you back to the music. So, doop-doop-a-doo. So here is Senorita Remix by Femi here on 89.5 FM, KCFB, The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you after the break with a little more of GameBabble Live. That was Dancing with a Stranger by Sam Smith and Normani here on 89.5 FM KCFB, The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jel. Welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, airing every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. it looks like. So, hey, welcome back. Now that we're done raging at Sony for being idiots, let's talk about something weird Microsoft is doing that's really causing some head scratching. Ready for this one? Xbox Live is coming to smart devices and Nintendo Switch. You can get Xbox Live on your Nintendo Switch. The reasoning for this is that this is going to make cross-play even easier, because now you'll be able to join the Xbox Live gaming community across multiple platforms, blah, blah, blah. But this raises a lot of questions just of how is this going to work? Namely, does this mean that for these games we'll have to pay for both Nintendo Switch Online and Xbox Live in order to play them? Or will we only have to pay for Nintendo Switch Online? Will we only have to pay for Xbox Live Online? Will we perhaps not have to pay for any online at all if it uses Xbox Live? These are all important questions. And something I honestly need to look into, because I'm reading the comments here, and someone is mentioning something about the cross-play games not requiring Nintendo Switch Online to be played. Minecraft and Rocket League, they're saying, do not require Nintendo Switch Online in order to be played. So it is a very good question of how in the entire heck is that even going to work? A good question that many of us need to ask. Although, no, never mind. I was trying to remember if you actually needed Xbox Live Gold in order to play Xbox Live games over the internet. I don't remember. I guess you do. Whatever. Yeah, of course you do. Moving on, though. So, Grand Blue Fantasy. Big mobile game in Asia, especially Japan. People seem to love it. There is actually a way to play it in English on your browser. I did poke at it because of all the developments. Because it's got some very interesting-looking games announced. Namely, Arc Systems Works, makers of Dragon Ball FighterZ and the Guilty Gear franchise, are making Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, a fighting game using that same super nice cel-shaded style, featuring the Grand Blue Fantasy characters, and it looks friggin' great. I took one look at it, and I'm like, oh man, this reminds me so much of Battle Fantasia, except way fancier. And I remembered, oh yeah, these people made Battle Fantasia, so of course it does. Either way, I was intrigued enough that I downloaded Grand Blue Fantasy, or played it on the browser rather, just to check it out and see what all the fuss was about. The result, yeah, no, there's not a lot of game there. But the character designs are really neat, so I can't wait to play them in actual games. But while all this is going on, we have Arc Systems Works, one of the best fighting game developers out there, making a fighting game. Platinum Games is also making a 4-player co-op online action RPG extravaganza set in the Grand Blue Fantasy world that they've been working on for a couple years now, called Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and I'm so excited. I like the world. I don't like the actual game, but I like the world, and the spin-off games look like they're going to be amazing, except we just got some very disconcerting news. Platinum's contract is up on Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and it is going to be handled in-house by the mobile game developers. And this has everyone very baffled and disconcerted, because on one hand, it's like, well, the game is clearly, they've shown gameplay of it. It looks amazing. It's already up and running, seems fantastic. Arc Systems, or Platinum, really doesn't need to put any more effort into this game. It's good the way it is. Just get it. Just finish it up, get it out there, I'm sure it will be great. But what's disconcerting is apparently Platinum Games' name has been removed from the game and the website. Well, that's disconcerting. Are they going to throw out all the work Platinum Games put into it? Do the developers know that the only reason people care about Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is because it's being made by Platinum Games? That Platinum Games has a pedigree and people will buy their games just because it's a Platinum Games game? Do they know this? Because, yeah, a lot of people are only interested in this game because of that. Because, again, the mobile game is freaking garbage. I played it, and I'm like, you could call it a simplified RPG if you were an idiot. Basically, the way the mobile game works, it's got a gacha system where you can get a bunch of different characters, and there's various chapters, you click through a bunch of text, and then it's just RPG battle, RPG boss, done, more text. And the battles have an auto-battle function, which for the majority of battles is all you really need. You barely need to interact with the game at all. It pretty much plays itself. It's boring and stupid, but I love the characters, I love the art, I love the world, and having spin-off games for it sounds fantastic. I can't wait to play these two games, but I'm very concerned about Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. In fact, let me double-check that. There we go. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. So there's an official website for it on PlatinumGames.com, but it redirects you away from it. Okay, so it is no longer on PlatinumGames.com. Here's Grand Blue Fantasy Relink's website. Yeah, I don't know where I would see... Yeah, I don't see the Platinum Games logo on it. That is actually very disconcerting. Considering this is, considering that's the whole reason a lot of us care is because this is a Grand Blue Fantasy game. Or, not because it's a Grand Blue Fantasy game, but because it's a Platinum Games game. So, yeah, the fact that Relink is no longer Platinum Games is very, very weird. It's weird that they would announce this, and weird that they would... It looks like a really, really good game. So the fact that they're taking Platinum off of it is very strange and disconcerting. Again, Platinum has a massive pedigree. A lot of people love Platinum Games' games because they do good work. I mean, these are the people who make Bayonetta. These are the people who originally developed Devil May Cry. These are some OG good devs. So yeah, just very, very strange happenings going on here. But that's what it is. Moving right along, though. So, gonna be interesting to see what happens with that game. I hope they don't scrap Platinum's work on the game. That would delay the game massively, because, Platinum's put a lot of work in, and it's nearly done. Like, I really want to know what's up with this. Every time a Platinum Games game gets canceled, there's a huge question of why, because they do such incredible work, even during their quote-unquote dark age, which is really misunderstood. Which is the funniest thing. You ever hear about the Platinum Games dark age? Before Nier Automata came out, people mentioned they did the Legend of Korra game, Transformers Devastation, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants in Manhattan, and Star Fox Zero, all of which, quote-unquote, all of which were terrible games. Except, here's the thing. Star Fox Zero was bad because of the forced motion control, and that was a Nintendo thing, not a Platinum Games thing. Although, personally, I think the bosses were poorly designed. It had plenty of other issues. But, because the controls didn't bother me. Star Fox Zero has other problems. But, yeah, no, Platinum Games was not the issue with Star Fox Zero. And their other games... Legend of Korra apparently gets good after you beat it and you play it on New Game Plus with all your powers unlocked. And Mutants in Manhattan actually had really, really good combat. It's just the stage design was terrible. They tried to do this faux open world thing with all these different, like, mini games you had to play. Like, mini submission. Point was, you couldn't actually engage in the combat enough, and that's what tanked the game. I really need to sit down and beat that game sometime, because I've got 2 friends who bought the game digitally. So they can't get rid of it, and I still have my copy, and we are halfway through the game, so we need to sit down one day and just finish the fight. Because it has this one good element in it, and everything else is just bleh. Anyway, moving right along from TMNT, Mutants in Manhattan, and all that, whenever people talk about these games, though, they often ignore the parts that are good, and the fact that the Activision games were all cobbled together in a single year. But the most ignored thing is Transformers Devastation. And that pisses me off, because I'm going to be honest. Transformers Devastation may well be my favorite Platinum game. It is utterly phenomenal. It's clear that it's rushed because it only has 2 different environments, but the gameplay is fantastic. It's fun, it's fast, it's explosive and flashy, and I really, greatly, deeply enjoy it. Unfortunately, it is delisted digitally from everywhere, but thankfully it has a physical release. So while you can no longer buy it on PC, you can absolutely buy it on PS4, Xbox One, PS3, and Xbox 360, because it was released across all those platforms. Which makes it really annoying that it didn't get a Wii U release, because of course Platinum Games was doing a bunch of Wii U exclusives that Nintendo was contracting them out for. You know, Bayonetta 2, Wonderful 101, Star Fox Zero, but you couldn't get their Activision games on the Wii U. And that always annoyed me, because the Wii U could very clearly run Transformers Devastation. And I wish it would have, but, you know, Activision decisions being Activision. And yeah, so, like, Platinum does good work, so it's always weird when their games get canceled and derailed because they have that rabid hardcore fan base. Like what happened with Anarchy Reigns and all of that. But anyway, moving on. So, Final Fantasy 14. I'm going to have to care about that game now. Because coming in July is the next expansion. I think it's called the Shadowbringers. Either way, the point is, it is adding Vieras and Gunblades. And if you know anything about me, you know that means I start playing Final Fantasy XIV in July. I'm honestly kind of excited about it, because I know Final Fantasy XIV has grown massively, that there's a lot of people who really love it. The problem is, I really don't like traditional MMOs. I hate games where I hate more traditional RPGs where you only play as a single character. I think that's really boring. I hate the click and wait gameplay of MMOs. I only play action MMOs, and in general, I did not have a good experience with Final Fantasy XI, to put it lightly. Oh, that's a long story. I tried to play the Japanese version of it before it came to America, and then my computer hard drive crashed, and I lost the password, and it made it impossible for me to cancel my Japanese account, causing our credit card to be charged over and over and over again for years, even though I couldn't play the game. That was pleasant. But Final Fantasy XIV, it's out in English, and I'm looking forward to, it's been out in English for years, but I'm looking forward to finally playing it with the new expansion pack. And I'm not starting a day before. As soon as the Vieras are there, I will begin playing. I'm very curious to see how it goes. Because I know Final Fantasy XIV has been such an interesting game. Because, of course, it originally launched really close to It actually launched before Final Fantasy XIII. But was originally an absolutely terrible game that ran like crap, was flagrantly lacking features, and was just garbage. To such a degree that Square actually pulled their subscription fees from the game and like, fired everyone and wouldn't restart subscription fees until they fixed the game, which eventually required them to literally rebuild the entire game from scratch, having a big cataclysm event where the old world of Final Fantasy XIV is destroyed, and then you get A Realm Reborn, which is a completely different game. And then that was still having trouble drawing in players because it really just seemed like Final Fantasy XI except prettier. So they started, like, throwing in more and more and more fan service, more, oh, hey, look at these crazy chocobos you can get. Oh, hey, you can get Magitech armor now. Oh, hey, look at this thing from this game that you remember. Oh, you could get Cloud's Buster Sword. You could get Cloud's outfit. Oh, you could get all these different things. Oh, hey, how about we have the actual characters from those games show up? Let's have boss battles from those games. I know right now they were running a Final Fantasy Tactics event where you actually get to go to the Orbone Monastery and you fight the Lucavi and meet all sorts of characters from Final Fantasy Tactics, and they're all in the game. And it pretty much turned into a Final Fantasy fan wank fest. It's just reference after reference after reference. Hey, remember this character. Hey, remember this boss. Well, we're bringing it all into Final Fantasy XIV, which, of course, culminates them finally giving me Vieras. And I'm like, well, you win. And also Gunblades. People will be happy about Gunblades. I'm kind of amused by the idea of a Viera with a Gunblade, but I am probably rolling Bard. Just fair warning. Making bad life choices. I am the Bard. So, that's happening. I am excited to finally play Final Fantasy XIV this July. But again, not a minute earlier. We're gonna see how it all goes down. Hopefully I'll fall in love with it as much as everyone else has. I kind of doubt it though. Anyway, I do believe it is time for a break. So here is "Wake Up" by T Grizzly featuring Chance the Rapper here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Enjoyed this. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will wrap up our session of GameBabble Live by talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, because heck with it, why not? So here's "Wake Up" by T Grizzly featuring Chance the Rapper here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much. That was "Good Man" by Neo here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell. Welcome back to the show. So, gonna be keeping this spoiler-free, don't worry, but yeah, guess the only thing we have left to talk about that I can actually think of off the top of my head anyway, so much stuff went down, you kind of forget some of it, is Kingdom Hearts 3! Yeah, January has been a weirdly active month this time. Like, normally, there's not a lot that comes out in January, but this time, we got Ace Combat 7, Kingdom Hearts 3, and something else big and important that I've completely forgotten about, but a quick glance at Game FAQs will probably give me the answer. Oh, right, the Resident Evil 2 remake. And also, the port of Tales of Vesperia. You will have to excuse me, I actually completely and utterly hate Resident Evil 2 with every fiber of my being. I hate that game. The original. The remake's probably fine, but Resident Evil 2 actually ruined the entire survival horror game genre for me back when it came out. So, not a fan. Did not care about Resident Evil 2, especially because it doesn't have a VR mode. Speaking of VR modes, Ace Combat 7 finally comes out, and how many VR missions does it have? 3. People are not happy about this, because apparently the VR missions are freaking incredible. But when Ace Combat 7 was announced, it was announced as a PlayStation VR game. Many people thought it was going to be PlayStation VR exclusive even. But even still, back when it was announced, they were like, oh yeah, PlayStation VR support. And then this turned into, there's going to be a lot of PlayStation VR support. And it's like, there's going to be some PlayStation VR support. It's going to be a separate campaign, but it's going to be like 12 to 16 hours of PlayStation VR content. But then that wound up getting scaled back to, it's going to be more than like 2 or 3 missions. And then that got scaled back to 5 missions. And then that got scaled back to 3 missions. So people are not happy about that, especially because it's an incredible freaking game. A lot of people love it. A lot of people say the VR mode is utterly incredible. But again, we feel screwed over, because this is like what happened with Grand Theft Auto, or Gran Turismo Sport, where Gran Turismo Sport was advertised primarily as a VR game, only for the VR mode to be barely there. Shoot, even the Kingdom Hearts 3 VR experience winds up getting this treatment. Because it was like, oh yeah, there's going to be the Kingdom Hearts 3 VR experience. Oh, it's not going to be a whole lot. It's just going to be, we see the video and it's like, oh, okay, so we're going to like watch a music video while swinging a Keyblade at some Heartless. And it's not out in English yet, but in Japan, it's out and there's no Keyblade swinging. You just sit there in the middle of non-interactive cutscenes. But they're going to add in one more section, which will hopefully feature the Keyblade swinging from the trailer. Either way, yes, PlayStation VR fans definitely feel like they're being screwed over. Because, again, a lot of things get announced for PlayStation VR, and then cut back, there's barely anything. And it sucks, because, of course, VR is freaking incredible, but everyone is screwing this up. PC VR has poorly designed headsets that aren't compatible with glasses, and many of their interfaces and shops and things are still very much in early beta, whereas PlayStation VR is chock full of censorship and games getting cut back from their original planned VR content, on top of having, a smaller, more stringent library than other VR platforms. It's just a complete mess, and it makes me sad because, as you know, I love VR. I think VR has a lot of potential. I have had a great time with it. I'm really enjoying the games on VR, but yeah. Everyone's just screwing this up for everyone else. Moving on, though. So, Kingdom Hearts 3 is finally freaking here after, nearly a lot. I mean, cripe's sake, the game skipped an entire console generation. Kingdom Hearts 3 was, kind of teased at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2. I know people have been waiting for it since Kingdom Hearts 2. And while they've put out a bunch of Kingdom Hearts spin-off games, every single one of them has ended with, see you in Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be incredible. Here's the build-up to Kingdom Hearts 3. And that's one of the most important things to know in this story. Because, of course, people have all been waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3, and one person put it, well, why are you all so antsy about Kingdom Hearts 3? We've got Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance. That's pretty much Kingdom Hearts 3, right? And yes, all of those are important. I'm going to laugh at anyone who started with Kingdom Hearts, who goes straight from Kingdom Hearts 2 to 3 without finding out what happened in the middle, because Kingdom Hearts 3 picks up immediately after the ending of Dream Drop Distance. But yeah, the reason is because all of these spin-off titles on portables end with see ya in Kingdom Hearts 3. Can't wait for Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be incredible. I know people who bought a PlayStation 3 just to play Kingdom Hearts 3. And it never came out on PlayStation 3. It's only here now. So the wait has been excruciating. It's finally over. Kingdom Hearts 3 is here. And I've been worried about it because while I don't personally care about Kingdom Hearts, it's going to sound silly, but I actually only play the games for the gummy ships. Not kidding. I have a site called the Rail Shooter Archive. I'm serious about this. But, even though I know a lot of people who love their Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, egad, after this much of a wait, how horrible would it be if it was a bad game, considering what Final Fantasy 15 was like? Well, thankfully, it's not a bad game. There have been some people who aren't serious Kingdom Hearts fans who have been kind of iffy on it because they pick up Kingdom Hearts 3, and they're like, this feels like a PlayStation 2 game. This feels like nothing has changed, it's not modernized. But the thing is, I don't consider modernization a good thing. I actually prefer PlayStation 2 games to most modern games. So I have no beef. So I consider Kingdom Hearts 3 feeling a little bit dated to be a very good thing, and also questionable, because I don't entirely know what's dated about it, other than its obsession with cutscenes. Because in recent times, a lot of people have become very, very, very negative towards cutscenes. Cutscenes have been almost vilified by some people, because back during the PS2 era especially, there were a lot of games where you played a little bit of gameplay, and then you had these big, lengthy chunks of cutscenes. And if anything makes Kingdom Hearts 3 feel like a PS2 game, it's that. The cutscenes are bigger and longer and fancier than any other Kingdom Hearts. But at the same time, that's why you're there. You're there for the ridiculous plot and the Disney crossovers and seeing these characters interact. You're there for the cutscenes. And the fact that they are cutscenes and not just walls of text is kind of nice. I play a lot of games that feature walls of text instead of cutscenes. So, little nice having these beautifully animated cutscenes, even when it is just people standing around and talking, to be there. But you have to know that's what you're getting into with Kingdom Hearts 3. You have to know that as much gameplay there is, there's also going to be cutscenes. Now, there's gameplay to be had, but you basically have to derail the game yourself, looking for extra things, grinding, leveling up and stuff. If you just want to get on the plot railroad and see where the game ends, then you're going to hit cutscene, cutscene, cutscene. And I hope that's what you're there for, which I kind of am. I kind of enjoy the cutscenes. I like the fact that it's a movie. So I'm watching this movie. I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty fun. I think Woody should have been a bit more animated, but other than that, like, of all the characters to not have the overdone Kingdom Hearts hand gestures, why Woody? Because he's the one that would actually make sense with those. You ever notice how Kingdom Hearts characters have ludicrous hand gestures? Because they do. They're kind of funny. But the Toy Story world is, like, weirdly lacking in them. I wonder if it was hard to animate because Sora's a toy and he has those joints. Like, could they not get him to do his big flowy hand gestures? I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So Kingdom Hearts 3 is very cutscene filled. I will say the camera feels a little wonky even compared to the old PS2 games. In some ways, I do think Kingdom Hearts 2 had a bit better combat. I'm noticing the jump. There's a slight delay before the jump. I have trouble making precise movements in the world. Like, Sora always has to take a full step. I can't just scooch forward a little bit. So I do think that I think when all is said and done, there's going to be a lot of criticisms of Kingdom Hearts 3. Because, like, they spam triangle button moves. The way the game works, you've got your regular attack, you're pressing X, you're doing a combo, and then all these triangle button moves pop up. And you've got your team-up attacks, you've got your Keyblade transformations, you've got your summoning Disney World rides. It's to the point where they actually have a separate button, L2, which you use to cycle through your triangle button attacks. And they're just throwing them at you left and right, which for a while I thought was the point of the combat until I realized, I didn't add on my combo extenders. Because at the start of the game, the combat is not very good, because you only have a 3-hit combo and no air recovery. It feels very plain and bland. But once you get those extra hits to your combo, and once you get air recovery, which you get at the beginning of the Toy Story world, the combat feels a lot better. Even if it is a bit on the mashy side, it's certainly fun. I'm definitely having fun with the game. I'm impressed by how it looks. One of the things that people have criticized is the frame rate, because it does not keep a solid 60 on any console except for a PlayStation 4 Pro if you set its resolution to 1080p. The PlayStation 4 Pro tries to display it at higher than 1080p, but if you go into the option settings, set it to 1080p, and then flick some other option to force the game to run at 1080p, it will run at a near solid 60 FPS on PS4 Pro, and nothing else. Otherwise, like, the performance evaluation was Xbox One X ran the game the best, but it wasn't a solid 60. PS4 Pro, after tinkering with it, gave us a solid 60. After that, it's regular PS4 and then regular Xbox, although there were regular Xbox One, although there were rare instances where regular Xbox One ran better than PS4. For the most part, the regular PS4 ran it better. None of them ran at a consistent frame rate. There's an option called stable mode that's supposed to put it at a consistent 30, but it doesn't work right and has frame pacing issues, and everyone agrees that it's just worse than playing the game at the unlocked frame rate. I'm going to say that while it doesn't run at 60 FPS, it honestly runs pretty darn well. I'm playing it on a regular PS4, and I feel it runs and looks and plays fine. I understand the reason for wanting full 60 FPS, and I know the game would play better at full 60 FPS. But if you can't do that, whatever system you have it on, it runs and looks perfectly fine on. Even the regular Xbox One, where it runs at 720p. It's fine. It's fine. Game is gorgeous. And I fully understand why there's such a focus on newer Disney movies, which originally annoyed me because, of course, I prefer the hand-animated stuff. And I was like, really? Tangled? I think Tangled's a bit overrated. These don't feel like classics to me. And that's like, oh, wait, that's right. We've been going to the exact same Disney Worlds game after game after game for the past goodness knows how many Kingdom Hearts games. And on top of that, we now have the technology to do Toy Story and Tangled and Frozen in real time, looking nearly identical to their movie counterparts. So let's do it. Same thing with Pirates of the Caribbean. So that's what they're doing. It's very much Square Enix showing off their graphical muscle. And it's great seeing a game that looks and so much like an interactive Pixar movie. That is actually pretty nice. It is also nice that they were able to work more closely with Disney and Pixar on the worlds in order to give them a more involved plot and not just regurgitating the movie's plot every single time. Actually, come to think of it, I think it's mostly just the Pixar worlds where they really get to go off script and act as sequels and midquels and things. But either way, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a hoot. I'm enjoying it. I'm not going to call it the best game, but I think Kingdom Hearts fans are certainly happy for now. It feels like the kind of game that was worth the wait, I think. I'm sure in a year or two we'll be more critical of it and point out that the controls aren't quite as good, that the combat feels a little floaty, that there's way too much triangle attack spam and little things like that. But as a whole, it's a fun game. I'm having a blast with it. Worth the price of admission, and the gummy ships are good. Not quite as good as Kingdom Hearts 2, but they're good. The way they have it set up is now the gummy ships actually have a free-flying open space that you fly around in, and you can, find treasure and grab experience and stuff, and if you run into an enemy there, then it cuts to a rail shooter sequence, which I am playing over and over and over again, because of course I do. I run the rail shooter archives. Chase view rail shooters are my favorite genre. Of course I'm going to do this. I plan on getting home and making a Space Harrier ship, because that needs to happen. And then I need to make Opa Opa, because that needs to happen even harder than a Space Harrier ship. But until then, I think I need to get more parts and see if they'll give me like some wings and some properly shaped capsules to make an Opa Opa with. But until then, I'm enjoying the game. I think it's pretty fun. Not the greatest, but I think for once Square Enix did good, which is good, because they've been striking out and screwing up and just botching everything like you would not believe. But that, my friends, is sometimes the Square Enix way. But no, they got Kingdom Hearts 3 right, I think. I think they did it good. Thank goodness! So one more check to see if there's anything else worth mentioning. Hack and Slash RPG Debtor's School heads to PS4 and Switch this August in Japan. I know you can get that on Steam, and I'm pretty sure it's in English on Steam. Oh yeah, and then there's Earth Defense Force Iron Rain. That's right, Earth Defense Force 5 is out! And it's great! It's more Earth Defense Force. A lot of people are going to be like, this is like Earth Defense Force 4, but with, like, a bit more. But yeah, it is! And that's great! I'm loving it! I guess we'll have to talk about that more next time, maybe, but, well, let's talk about it a little now. Important thing to know about Earth Defense Force. It reboots every 2 games, so that way the aliens can invade, and every time it's a new set of aliens. So this time it's not the Ravagers, it's the Primers, it is a reboot, it is, it's not the same world as 3 and 4 or 1 and 2. This is 5. This is where we're at. I think the translation on it is fantastic in its awkwardness, because I think they translated the game very directly and had everyone read their lines super serious, which is exactly how an EDF game should be handled. I hear no forced memes. And yeah, it plays like Earth Defense Force. It's a little bit more polished, too. Like, the frame rate definitely seems better, and they've done some interesting twists to how it runs. Some interesting new features, namely blood spatter. The different aliens all have different colored blood, and they actually have a dynamic splatter against the stage. And it's amazing, because, like, you will blast an alien really hard. Like, you will shoot a bug really hard, and you will just see it splash across, like, an entire city block. And you will shoot an alien, their blood will just splatter across 3 buildings. It's like, wow. And then you fight Godzilla, and he's just spraying purple blood everywhere, and the whole city's just purple. It went all Splatoon on you. It's great. It is friggin' great. The new frog aliens are definitely an intriguing twist. There's over 100 missions. I hear over 1,000 weapons to collect. The game's a little bit more story-focused. For the first 12 missions, you are actually a civilian and have a different outfit, and then you get recruited into the EDF and get your proper outfit. After beating the game, though, you can switch back to your civilian clothes. The weapons are more dynamic and interesting than ever before, and finding duplicate weapons just causes the weapon's stats to go up. So there's less of a need to just have the same weapon except slightly better. Now, even if you lose a stage, you still get some payout. There's a lot of little tweaks. It doesn't look gorgeous, but it looks a bit better than Earth Defense Force 4. It runs a lot better than Earth Defense Force 4. And it plays incredibly well. Unfortunately, it's PS4 only, download only, full price, and I don't hear any announcements about what's going on with the Starship Troopers DLC. Which is unfortunate, because I really want that Starship Troopers DLC. Anyway, other than that, like I said, there is a new Earth Defense Force coming from Ukes, a different developer, called Earth Defense Force Iron Rain. It's set to come out in April, and it's going to be very interesting, because it's going to try to be a fancier, more polished Earth Defense Force with prettier graphics and a greater focus on story and even character customization. Whether this is going to be good or bad remains to be seen, but it's going to be an interesting spin-off, and I can't wait to try it. So, I do believe, with all of that said, this wraps up today's episode of GameBabble Live. I hope you've all enjoyed. Hope you tune in next week, because it's looking like it's going to be noon to 3 p.m. next Tuesday as well. Catch you there. If you missed the episode, don't worry. Just look up the GameBabble Live archive on YouTube, where I will be uploading every single episode I can as soon as I can. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring my hard drive with me to store the data on, but we'll figure out a way to make it work. So, anyway, we will get this episode up and running as fast as possible. Hopefully, it'll be up on the YouTube channel before the end of the week. Maybe tonight. Who knows? Anyway, hope you've enjoyed. Hope you tune in again next week. Catch you later. Until then, here is Move by Milo Green here on 89.5 FM, KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening.